Hello, and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Misery. This is part 2, also called Misery. 1. Misery's Return by Paul Sheldon for Annie Wilkes, Chapter 1. Although Ian Carmichael would not have moved from Little Dunthorpe for all the jewels in the Queen's treasury, he had to admit himself that when it rained in Cornwall, it rained harder than anywhere else in England. There was an old strip of toweling hung from a hook in the entryway. After harming up his dripping coat or removing his boots, he used his towel to towel his dark blonde hair dry. Distantly from the parlor, he could hear the rippling strains of Chopin, and he listened with the strip of towel still in his left hand, listening. The moisture running down his cheeks was not rainwater but tears. He remembered Geoffrey saying, "You must not cry in front of her, old man. That is one thing you must never do." Geoffrey was right, of course. Dear old Geoffrey was rarely wrong, but sometimes when he was alone, the nearness of Misery's escape from the Grim Reaper came forcibly to him. It was nearly impossible to hold the tears back. He loved her so much. Without her, he would die. Without Misery, there was simply no life left for him or in him. Her labor had been long and hard, but no longer and no harder than any of the other young ladies he had seen. She had seen the midwife declared. It was only after midnight, an hour after Geoffrey had been ridden in the gathering storm to try and fetch the doctor, that the wife had grown alarmed. That was when the bleeding had started. "Dear old Geoffrey," he spoke aloud one time as he stepped into the huge and stuporiously warm West Country kitchen. "Did ye speak, young sir?" Mrs. Ramage said. The Carmichael's crotchety but lovely old housekeeper asked him as he came in from the pantry. As usual, her mob cap was askew, and she smelled of the stuff she firmly believed. After all these years, she had to be a secret vice. "Not on purpose, Mrs. Ramage," Ian said. "By the sound ye coat a dripping out there in the entry. We're nearly drowned between the sheds and the hoose." "Aye, so I nearly did," Ian said, and thought, if Jessie had returned with the doctor even 10 minutes later, I believe she would have died. This was a thought he had tried to continuously discourage. It was both useless and gruesome. The thought of life without Misery was so terrible that sometimes crept up on him and surprised him. Now, breaking into these gloomy meditations, there came the healthy bawl of a child. His son, awake and more than ready for his afternoon meal. Faintly, he could hear the sound of Annie Wilkes, Thomas's capable nurse, as she began to soothe him and change his napkin. "The wee bairn's good voice today," Mrs. Ramage observed. Ian had one moment to think again, without suppressing wonder, that he was the father of a son, and his wife spoke to him from the doorway. "Hello, darling." He looked up, looked at Misery, his darling. She stood lightly posed in the doorway, her chest hair with its mysterious deep red grins like dying embers flowing over her shoulders in gorgeous profusion. Her complexion was still too pallid, but in her cheeks Ian could see the first signs of returning color. Her eyes were dark and deep, and the glow of the kitchen lamps sparkled in each, like small precious diamonds lying upon darkest jeweler's felt. "My darling," he cried, and ran to her, as he had the day in Liverpool when it seemed that the pirates had taken her away as Mad Jack Wickersham had sworn they would. Mrs. Ramage suddenly remembered something she had left undone in the parlor and left them together. She went, however, with a smile on her face. Mrs. Ramage had her moments when she could help wondering what life would have been like if Geoffrey and the doctor had arrived an hour later on the dark and stormy night 2 months ago. Or she had experimental blood transfusion in which her young master had so bravely poured his own life's blood into Misery's depleted veins had not worked. "Oh, girl," she had told herself as she hurried down the hall, "something's dinna bear and think of." Good advice Ian had given himself, but both had discovered that good advice was sometimes easier to give than receive. In the kitchen, Ian hugged Misery tightly to him, feeling his soul live and die and then live again in the sweet smell of her warm skin. He touched the swell of her breast and felt strong and steady for the beat of her heart. "If you have died, I should have died with you," he whispered. She put her arms around his neck, bringing the firmness of her breast more fully into his hand. Hush, my darling, Misery whispered. Don't be silly. I'm here. Right here. Now kiss me. If I die, I fear it will be with desire for you. He pressed his mouth against hers and plunged his hands deeply into the glory of her chestnut hair. And for a few moments, there was nothing at all except for the two of them. And I'm gonna end that right there. See you later.